Today's reflection isn't about changing your partner or fixing your marriage. It's about deepening your relationship with yourself so you can show up with more clarity, steadiness, and care. Welcome to the Conscious Marriage. Before we go any further, take a moment to settle in. There's nothing you need to do right now. Nothing you need to solve. You might be listening while the house is quiet or while you move through your day. Wherever you are, allow yourself to slow just a little. Let your shoulders drop. Take a gentle breath in and a slow breath out. This is simply a space to reflect and to reconnect with the way you want to show up in love. Let's begin there. Presence in the ordinary. A conscious woman does not show up perfectly. She shows up present. So what does it mean to be present in marriage or in a love relationship? It often looks far quieter than we expect. It looks like sitting at the kitchen table while your partner talks about his day and noticing that your mind has already wandered to tomorrow's tasks. The grocery list. The unanswered message. The thing you meant to say earlier. And instead of pretending to listen or criticizing yourself for drifting, you gently return. You make eye contact again, you feel your feet on the floor, you let his words land. Not just in your ears but in your body. Presence might look like this. You're tired, he asks a simple question, and irritation rises faster than you'd like in that moment. A conscious woman notices the irritation before it becomes sharp words or withdrawal. You feel the tightness in your chest, the subtle heat behind your eyes, and you pause just long enough to realize, I'm exhausted. This isn't really about the question. That pause is presence. Or imagine this. You're sharing something that matters to you and he responds distractedly, half-focused elsewhere. The familiar story starts forming. I'm not important. I always come second. A conscious woman notices the story forming. She feels the drop in her stomach. The urge to shut down. Instead of immediately pulling away or pushing harder, she stays with herself first. She recognizes the vulnerability beneath the reaction. Presence here doesn't mean swallowing the feeling. It means meeting it honestly and choosing how to respond from clarity rather than hurt. Presence also lives in silence. In the moments when you're both in the same room, not talking, not fixing, not entertaining each other. You notice whether you're relaxed or bracing. You notice whether you feel at home in your body or subtly on guard. A conscious woman pays attention to these internal signals not to judge the relationship, but to understand herself more deeply within it. There are moments when presence means staying engaged and moments when presence means knowing you need space. For example, a conversation starts circling, repeating itself. Your body feels tense, your breath shallow. Presence might mean saying gently, I want to continue this, but I need a moment to settle first. Not as avoidance, as self-respect. Presence is also revealed in how you enter shared moments. You walk through the door after a long day. You feel the residue of stress still in your shoulders. Instead of carrying it silently into the room or releasing it unconsciously through tone or distance, you notice it. You might take one breath before greeting him. One small moment to arrive. That too is presence. A conscious woman understands that many disconnections do not come from lack of love but from lack of awareness. From being physically together while emotionally elsewhere. Presence is the practice of coming back to yourself first and then to the relationship. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But moment by moment in the ordinary places where love is actually lived. And this, ladies, is where conscious marriage quietly begins. Not in dramatic changes but in these small, attentive returns to what is happening now. So let's talk about communication. Not polite communication. Not careful, surface-level conversations meant to keep things calm. But clear, honest communication, the kind that actually builds intimacy in a marriage. You see, a conscious woman doesn't communicate to manage outcomes or keep the peace at all costs. She communicates to stay in integrity with herself. And that begins with truth. She chooses to speak truth with clarity, not manipulation. She doesn't hint. She doesn't test. She doesn't withhold what's real, hoping her partner will somehow sense it. She doesn't say it's fine when her body says otherwise. She doesn't grow quiet as a way to be noticed. She doesn't wrap resentment in politeness. Instead, she notices what's happening inside her. And she names it before it hardens. Because unspoken feelings don't disappear. They settle in the body. They turn into distance. Imagine this moment. You've had a long day. You're overwhelmed and emotionally tired. You were hoping for connection, maybe just a few minutes of presence. But your partner spends the evening talking about his business plans, not noticing that you're already running on empty. You feel disappointment rise. Instead of brushing it off or letting it quietly turn into withdrawal, you choose honesty. Later, you say, I realized I was really wanting a little connection tonight. Not as an accusation. Not as a demand. Just as truth. Clear, direct, respectful. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's real. This is what it looks like when a conscious woman takes responsibility for her needs. She names them directly without expecting mind reading. She doesn't assume love means being understood without words. She understands that clarity is a form of self-respect. So she speaks before frustration builds, with no apology, no drama. Just honesty. Because unmet needs don't make you more patient or more evolved. They turn into resentment quietly, and a conscious woman chooses clarity before resentment. But ladies, clear communication also means listening. Not to win, but to understand. When a conscious woman listens, she isn't rehearsing her response. She isn't gathering evidence. She isn't preparing her defense. She's listening to understand the inner world of the man she chose to build a life with. This often shows up during disagreement. He's explaining his perspective and you feel the urge to interrupt, correct, or justify yourself. Instead, you notice that urge. You stay with the discomfort of not being immediately understood. You ask yourself, what is he really trying to say right now? What matters to him here? This doesn't mean you agree. It means you allow his experience to exist alongside yours. Because intimacy isn't built by winning conversations. It's built when both people feel seen, even in difference. A conscious woman is also willing to have difficult conversations early. She doesn't wait until small hurts turn into emotional explosions. She doesn't tell herself, it's not worth bringing up. I'll say something later. I don't want to create tension. She understands that small truths spoken early prevent much deeper pain later. So when something feels off, she pays attention. Maybe a pattern is forming. A small resentment shows up more than once. Instead of carrying it quietly, she brings it into the open while her heart is still soft. He might say, I've noticed something that keeps coming up for me, and I'd like to talk about it before it grows. Not dramatic. Not accusing. Just present. Because courage in communication isn't loud. It's timely. Clear, honest communication isn't about saying everything you feel or getting it right every time. It's about staying present with yourself while staying connected to the relationship. A conscious woman doesn't communicate from fear of losing love. She communicates from self-trust. And when a woman trusts herself, her words don't stop at expression, they become boundaries. Because clarity without boundaries is incomplete. It's not enough to say how you feel if you don't also honor what you need. This is where communication turns into self-respect. This is where love stops requiring self-betrayal. So, let's unpack what boundaries really mean in a conscious relationship. Boundaries are not about walls, ultimatums, or control. They are not about punishing your partner or keeping love at a distance. Boundaries are the lines you draw to honor yourself while staying present in the relationship. They answer this question. Where do I end and where does my partner begin? In a conscious relationship, boundaries are sacred markers of self-respect. They are how you say to yourself and to your partner, I see myself. I honor my energy, my values, my needs. I can love you fully without losing myself. A conscious woman knows she doesn't have to disappear inside a relationship. She doesn't carry emotions that aren't hers to carry, and she doesn't mistake love for endurance or sacrifice for devotion. This isn't about being closed off. It's about being clear. She knows that love does not require self-betrayal. So when something doesn't feel right, she listens. Not to react, but to orient herself back to truth. Maybe it looks like this. You notice you're always the one adjusting your schedule. You're the one holding the emotional weight. You're the one explaining, softening, waiting. And instead of burying that feeling, you pause. You check in with yourself. Where am I crossing my own line? Then you speak, calmly, clearly, without apology. No, that doesn't work for me. I need more consistency than this. I'm not okay being spoken to this way. No guilt, no over-explaining, no quiet resentment simmering beneath the surface. Just honesty. Just self-respect. Just the courage to protect your own boundaries. Because a woman who respects herself doesn't tolerate disrespect, emotional neglect, or chronic imbalance, not loudly, not dramatically, but firmly. She protects her energy, her time, her values, not because she's selfish but because she's sovereign. And here's what's important to understand, ladies. Boundaries aren't walls. They're what make true closeness possible. Because once a woman stops betraying herself, she stays fully present, fully chosen. And when a woman stays rooted in herself, when she protects her energy and honors her boundaries, she no longer stays out of fear or obligation. A conscious woman doesn't remain in a relationship because it's easier than leaving. She doesn't stay because she's afraid to start over. She doesn't stay because it's too late, or too complicated, or because leaving would disappoint someone else. She chooses every day. She is with her partner because she wants to be, not because she needs to be. That distinction changes everything. Needing creates fear. Choosing creates presence. It means she's not clinging. She's not performing. She's not negotiating her worth to keep the relationship intact. She understands commitment not as imprisonment, but as devotion freely given. And paradoxically, that choice deepens intimacy because when a man knows he is chosen, not relied on for survival, he meets her differently. And when a woman knows she is staying from desire, not duty, she shows up with openness, not resentment. This is love as a conscious act, not a contract signed under pressure. From that place of choice, something else becomes possible. True partnership. Not sameness but polarity. You see, a conscious woman honors both independence and interdependence. She knows how to stand on her own feet and lean in without collapsing herself. She allows her partner to lead where it feels natural without shrinking, competing, or disappearing. This might look like trusting his direction while still offering her intuition. Letting him hold structure while she brings emotional intelligence and insight. Not because she's less than. Not because roles are rigid. But because equality doesn't mean doing everything the same way. It means equal worth, not identical function. She respects masculine and feminine dynamics without turning them into cages. She doesn't abandon her power to be partnered, and she doesn't weaponize her independence to avoid vulnerability. She knows partnership works best when both people are grounded in who they are, and generous with what they bring. And even in this, especially in this, she understands that marriage is not meant to keep her comfortable. It's meant to help her grow. A conscious woman sees the relationship as a space for evolution, not just stability. So when feedback comes, she doesn't immediately armor up. She breathes. She listens. She asks, "What's here for me to learn?" She doesn't use conflict as proof that something is broken. She uses it as information. Information about patterns, about wounds, about places that are asking to be healed. She's willing to look at what she inherited, what she learned to tolerate, what she's ready to do differently. Because she knows this truth. We grow together or we grow apart. Growth is not optional. Avoidance may keep things calm for a while, but it never keeps them alive. And through all of this boundaries, choice, polarity, growth, she remembers that love is not an idea. It's an embodiment. A conscious woman doesn't just understand love. She practices it. She practices presence. Putting her phone down, making eye contact, being here. She practices affection, not as obligation but as expression. She keeps desire alive not by performing, but by staying connected to herself. By tending to her own aliveness. She offers compassion without enabling dysfunction. She loves with strength, not self-sacrifice. Because love that costs you yourself is not love. And love that is embodied, felt, lived, expressed, becomes something real enough to endure. Not perfect, but fully alive. So, ladies, before we close, allow yourself a moment of stillness. Quietly, you might ask yourself, where in my marriage do I feel most like myself? Where do I tend to disappear, shrink, or hold tension? What would it feel like to bring more presence there? Gently, without force. There's no rush, no pressure, only curiosity. And let these words settle softly within you. I show up with awareness, not perfection. I honor my emotions without being ruled by them. I choose presence, honesty, and self-respect. My growth enriches my marriage. Love feels safer when I am anchored within myself. Take a slow, full breath in and a gentle, releasing breath out. You are allowed to grow here. You are allowed to take your time. And I want you to know, you are never ever alone on this path.